Hi, everybody. It's Kris from KrisCarr.com, and I am here with Chris Wark from KrisBeatCancer.com, and we're matching. Welcome, Chris.
Look, yeah, we didn't coordinate this or plan it at all. I
No,
didn't just put this on.
nope.
I've been wearing this for days.
And I wearing this, and yeah, that's how we roll. We're just so in tune with our philosophies and our wardrobes.
And our nautically themed tops.
I'm so happy to finally interview you, nautical themes aside, because your journey is amazing. And recently we've had the opportunity to get to know each other more. And I've wanted to connect with you and reach out with you and become friends with you for so long. And I'm so happy that happened. And I'm super psyched to share you with my readers, my listeners, with everybody in my world. So for those of you who don't know Chris, he's phenomenal. He's a remarkable cancer patient. He's a remarkable survivor. He has this incredible story that he's going to share with us and so many tips that he's learned along the way. He's a phenomenal teacher. He's got a book coming out. He's got an amazing program that we're going to talk about at the end of this interview. And again, you're a rock star, and I'm so happy you're here. So welcome again, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. And boy, I'm so glad we're friends. Yeah, I've wanted to be your friend for many years, and now we're friends, and it's really nice.
I agree. We have so many things in
It's really
common,
nice.
and I think that we have very similar messages. We've had similar paths, though they've diverged in certain ways, and we'll talk about that with all of the listeners. But why don't we begin with your story for those who don't know it? Let's start there.
Yes, absolutely. I'm good at telling my story. Um, so in 2003, I started having pain, and it was abdominal pain. I thought maybe it was an ulcer or something. I'd never had any health problems in my life. I was 26 years old. I was a real estate investor, musician, entrepreneur, been married just over a year, and was just like getting after life and was really excited about my life and everything I was doing. And, but I just started having these little pains, and I didn't know what they were, and I ignored them for months and months. And then eventually, I kind of felt like, well, anytime I've hurt myself before, it heals. So I'm sure whatever this is will take care of itself. But the pain progressively got worse. And then toward the fall of 2003, like it just was really bothering. I mean, it was like, especially after dinner, I would eat dinner and then like be watching TV on the couch, and it would just be like, oh man, like this not feeling really good right now. So my wife talked me into seeing the doctor, and after getting bounced around a little bit, eventually they said, well, we don't know what's wrong with you, but let's do a colonoscopy and have a look around and see if we see anything. So colonoscopy is where they stick a camera where the sun don't shine and take a look. So they also stuck one down my throat. Hopefully it wasn't the same scope, but I was unconscious. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I
But
hope it wasn't, but
or mouth first,
yeah.
at least. So I woke up from the colonoscopy, and my wife and I are there, in this little tiny room with a curtain for a door. And the doctor comes in and said, you've got a tumor in your colon. And we took a biopsy. We're going to send it to the lab, and hopefully it's benign, but it could be cancer. My wife starts crying. I'm like still under the anesthesia, so I'm just kind of like, what? Like it just felt like a dream, sort of, that I didn't understand. And a day or so later, I got a call, and they called first thing in the morning. And when a doctor calls you thing in the morning, it's never good news. Never. So first thing, he said, yeah, you've got colon cancer. We got to get you into surgery right away. We've got to get this thing out of you before it spreads and kills you. And a surgeon will be following up with you to schedule this appointment. And I'm like, oh man, like what is happening with my life?
Right.
Like I don't have time for cancer. Like I got other plans. And and then it's, all the thoughts that you have when you're diagnosed with cancer. You're like, is this going to kill me? Am I going to like die young? Like what? Like, I don't even, my life has just completely changed, and just in an instant. So I agreed to surgery. We postponed it because this was 2 days before Christmas, right? So I was like, it's Christmas. Like, can I not be in the hospital on Christmas? This is already the worst news ever. And they're like, yes, we can postpone it till December 30th. So I went in on December 30th. They cut out a third of my large intestine to take the tumor out. I woke up from surgery and they said, it's worse than we thought. We thought you were stage 2, you're stage 3. It spread to your lymph nodes. And we took everything we could see. We think we got it all. But you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. So at that point, I'm just like, man, this is just getting worse and worse. And I just accepted in that moment, just in the hospital, I just accepted that, okay, like this is my life. I'm the cancer patient. And there were a couple things that happened in the hospital that started me thinking a little bit differently about my situation. One of them was the very first meal that they served me. Stop laughing.
No.
This is serious.
No, it's not.
The very first meal that they served me after cutting out a third of my large intestine, right? So they cut me open down the middle, split my belly button in half, pulled out my intestines, like chopped 2 ends off, sewed the tube back together, right? Stuffed it back in there. And then they're like, here, eat this. And it was a sloppy Joe.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, I'm on heavy pain medication and all that, but when somebody puts a sloppy Joe in front of you, you're like, what? What is this? Like, nobody likes sloppy Joes. They don't even serve them in restaurants. They don't serve them anywhere. The only place you can get a sloppy Joe, as far as I know, is summer camp, the military, and prison.
Schools.
School lunches. Yeah,
unfortunately.
Okay. And hospitals. So this is new. Whoa, okay. They're serving these in hospitals too. So institutional cafeteria food.
So, but let's just pause for a second because it sounds like this is the miraculous sloppy Joe because it's the first aha. It's the thing that turns the lights on for you.
It was a miraculous sloppy Joe. Thank you for coining that. Oh yeah, we'll use that from now on. It was the very first little kind of clue that I got, that the cancer industry or just the medical industry had no regard for nutrition and like healthy eating or healthy living. And I didn't know what healthy eating was. My mom.
Did I.
No, I did. I'm saying I did.
Oh, you knew. I didn't know.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it, but I definitely knew that like, apples and oranges and like broccoli and stuff was like healthier than cheeseburgers and sloppy Joes. Like I worked at Wild Oats for a couple of years in college. So it was like I was around health food and organic food. So I knew what it was.
Right.
And my mom was kind of a health nut and used to buy like, wheat germ and sprouts and kefir and stuff like that when I was a kid. So, but she still took me to McDonald's for my first birthday, so she wasn't like hardcore wellness crunchy mamas like today. Okay. She was just dabbling. And she was an avid reader, but I'll get to that in a minute. So that happened. And then a couple days later, the day I'm supposed to leave the hospital, the surgeon comes to check on me. And I said, hey, is there any food I need to eat or avoid? Because I'm thinking they just cut my guts open and sewed them back together. Like, I don't want to go home and eat the wrong thing and like somehow screw it up because everything you eat's going to pass through that area, right? Like, is hot sauce going to melt the stitches or like, or Doritos too sharp? Like, so I asked him and he said, no, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer. I'm like, okay. That's it. Like, you're a gastrointestinal surgeon, like that's all you got to say about digestive health. And that was it. So, sloppy Joes and beer. That's basically the two things I took away from my stint in a medical institution. And so then but again, these two things got the wheels turning. like you said, I was like, why is there such a huge disconnect
Right.
between health food? Like, you know, this doesn't make sense. Why are they serving this food to sick people? And I went home. I'm recovering from surgery. I'm on the couch. I'm trying to get off pain medicine. I didn't like being on pain medicine and trying to recover and just thinking about my life and my future and praying a lot. My wife and I just specifically prayed one day because I was thinking about chemotherapy and I was just thinking, gosh, it just doesn't feel right. Like something about it doesn't feel right for me. For some everybody's got their own choices to make in life, but I had this just increasing internal resistance. I prayed about it and I was just like, God, if there's another way, please show me. Just, I'm desperate. I'm asking for something, anything. I don't know what to do. This doesn't feel right. Help. Right? Just very simple, reaching out, asking for help. And 2 days later, I got a book. This book shows up on my doorstep. It was mailed to me from a man who lives in Alaska, who was a friend of my dad's, and the book just made the case for a diet that's plant-based. It's raw, mostly raw, fruits and vegetables, like getting back to nature, eating simple foods from the earth. And the reason that so many of us are sick is because we're eating all this man-made food, processed food, junk food, and way too much meat and dairy. And I'm like, you know what? This all makes sense to me. So what would happen if I completely changed my diet to this crazy raw food diet, which, by the way, at that time, I'd never heard of, didn't know anybody who'd ever done it. And, you know, there wasn't Instagram with a bunch of like hot, sexy singles, you know, raw foodists, right? Like posing in like bikinis with like, you know, like cantaloupe or whatever.
Yeah. Coconut water.
Yeah. Like that wasn't a thing.
No.
So it was just this weird fringe, like sort of, was it a hippie thing? I didn't know what it was, but I was like, I love this idea. I love this idea. And I want to see what will happen to my body if I do this. And it made more sense to me. And I felt like there's no risk in doing it. So I got really excited. And then I called my wife and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. I got this book and like, the raw food. I mean, I was talking in circles that probably didn't make any sense, right? Like, we got to get a juicer and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, you got, you're still doing chemo, right? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do chemo. I just, this is what I think I need to do. And, whatever. And then, get off the phone. It didn't end. The conversation didn't end well. It was kind of like, I was not feeling like, oh, yes, let's do it kind of a response. It was kind of like.
And that's understandable because I think
yeah.
so many people would be very frightened for themselves and also for you.
Absolutely. And then other family members start calling. And they're saying, Kris, we heard you're thinking about not doing chemotherapy. Right. And you need to do exactly what the doctor says. And I know somebody who did alternative therapies and they died. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, everybody's telling me I'm wrong. And so then that was a whole nother level of anxiety and fear that came into my life because I realized, if I do this, everybody thinks I'm crazy and I'm going to lose support. Now they love me. They just want me to live, right? I don't fault anyone in my life for trying to talk me out of it because they just were doing what they thought was best.
And the truth is it's a big risk because people who have done 100% alternative therapies, many of them have not survived. So it really depends on the person, the disease, the staging of the disease, so many different factors. So in many ways, they had very founded fears.
That's right. They did. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I just want to live. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to accept the fact that most of the people around me won't understand and won't support me. And I'm going to have to do it alone. But I also thought, I want to live and die on my terms. Right. So
Did you
Now,
decide to give it a certain period of time? Because let me just pause for a second to make sure I'm tracking this. After the surgery, and you tell me what was removed from your surgery again?
yeah, a third of my colon, the tumor, and surrounding lymph nodes.
Okay. So after the surgery, did they say, we got it all?
Right. Yes. They said, we think we got it all.
Right.
But you need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. And the reason they said that is because, um, even at stage one, a cancer patient has circulating stem cells and circulating tumor cells
Yeah.
throughout their body. And so surgery rarely cures stage three, or never cures stage four cancer. Stage one and two, your immune system can sometimes mop up the cancer that's left. But you and I both know a lot of stage one and two cancer patients that did everything right, did all the treatments they're supposed to do, and then it comes back.
Right.
And then, now they're stage three or four. So again, going into this, I didn't have any of that perspective.
Right.
I
So
just
you
knew.
didn't necessarily say, okay, post surgery, I'm going to give myself a period of time to see what I can do. And then
No.
if I need to do chemo and radiation, I will.
Yeah, I wasn't quite that methodical, but I had in the back of my mind that chemo was still an option,
Okay.
right? I'm like, look, I I saw so much room for improvement in my life that it was ridiculous. I was like, my life is a mess. It's such a mess, and I need to change everything. And like, I was excited about it though. I was excited about the prospect of like transforming my life, and let's see what happens. And I can always do chemo later, but I was also very afraid, right? I was
Yeah.
also in that moment. I mean, not moment, but in that uh, period of time where I was excited about changing my life, I was also terrified about failing and dying, right? And suffering.
Of
So, I
course.
mean, those emotions, you understand them. They were just together. Um, Now, this is where my mom comes in. So, my mom was the only person that supported me in the beginning.
Mm.
Little did I know, she had a huge library of health and wellness books that she'd been reading since the 70s and had never been sick, never had any major diseases, but she was just an avid reader, lifelong learner, read all, Louise Hay books, the Hay House books, but she had all the Paul Bragg books. She had Pablo
Wow.
Areola. She had all these raw food books. I mean, I'm looking on my shelf. She had the original Al Carter rebounding book, you know, a cancer battle plan, like Dr. Richard Schultz, Lorraine Day. She had all of these books and this information on like alternative. She had the fun, the famous Kevin Trudeau, natural
Yeah,
cures
yeah,
they don't
yeah.
want you to know about book. She had all of that stuff. And
That's
and
wild.
so yeah,
So
and
she was
so
basically like, let me show you my secret chamber, child.
yeah.
There's
So
information in here.
yeah, so as soon as I told her like about this book I got and what I wanted to do, she was like, "Oh yeah, no, I think that'd be a good idea." And I
Mm.
think that'd be good. And I told her, I didn't want to do chemo. She's like, no. She's like, no, I understand. And then she was like, well, I have this book, and I'm just like, you have all these. And then as I was learning, I would find new books, and I'm like, have you ever heard of? And she's like, yeah, here it is.
That's
I
amazing.
mean, it was ridiculous. So, so that was cool. I mean, that was another what I call like just mini miracle in
Yeah.
my life, right? Is my mom had stored up all these books for me, right? Not realizing that they were all for me. So, so that was encouraging in the moment of fear and uncertainty and anxiety, right? And doubt. There were these little signs, right? These like signposts along the way, along the journey that were reminding me like you're on the right path,
Yeah.
right? It's like when you go hiking in the woods and there's like you always like a moment or two where you're like, I'm not sure where we are
And then
right
you,
now. And like, but we're on the trail,
yeah.
but I don't know. And then you keep going, and then you see like you find like, okay, there's a marker. Okay, yeah. All right, we're almost to the, whatever. We're still on the right trail.
I just have to chime in for a second because it's such a courageous decision that you made, and of course we know that everybody has their own journey, and everybody has to make their own decisions that are right for them. For me, when I was newly diagnosed, and I have stage 4 cancer, I've been living with it for 15 years now, and it's just been stable this entire time. And so it was really like a watch and wait approach, which it continues to be. And now I get scanned every few years to see that everything's still fine. And, at some point I may change that. But over time, I've kind of prolonged the distance between scans. I've spread the distance between scans out with my oncologist's blessing. But because my disease is so rare and it works in some interesting ways, so it can be slow growing and kind of indolent like mine, it can be aggressive, it can start slow growing and then become aggressive. You just kind of don't know, which is why we continue to track it, and which is why I continue to live my life. Let me just say that. But in the beginning, I didn't have surgery options. I didn't have treatment options. And so I didn't have to make the decision that you made. The only decision that I had to make was, do I want to participate in my health or do I want to participate in my disease? And I knew that, like you, I was participating in my dis-ease because I wasn't feeling well. My life, like you said, was kind of a mess. And nothing was feeling good. And so I thought, you know what? Let this be my wake-up call. Let this be the thing that starts me on a new path, a healing path. And let me see if I can, again, participate in my well-being. And that's why when I heard about your story, I was really inspired because, again, we have done many of the same things. My mom had a lot of the Louise Hay books and many other books. She didn't have that treasure trove of raw food and, healing cancer books, but I did find them. I rooted them out. I ferreted them out. And that became the beginning of my own education and awakening as well. So, very cool. Again,
Well,
similar clothes, similar journey.
same, yeah, same name.
Samesies. So let's.
Well, I love that.
Go ahead.
We read a lot of the same books.
Yeah,
right?
we did.
Excuse me. We read a lot of the same books at that time, which is so funny and cool. And there were only a handful, really. I mean, that you could find in the bookstore. Now, my mom had all these old books that were out of print that I was going through. But yeah, I mean, in the bookstores and stuff, it was like there was only a handful of books, and it was like, okay, I guess this is it. And I usually kind of talk about this later in the story, but I will say this, like every book I found and sort of every piece of information I found, which was all books, the internet didn't help me at all at that time. I just couldn't find anything, and none of the websites seemed trustworthy. It just was the internet was super sketchy in 2004. Most people don't remember, but it was all text. There were no videos.
It was pretty rough. I mean, that's ultimately why I made my film and wrote my book, because I was like, I can't find what I need. I bet there's some other young folks who can't find what they need either.
Right. Exactly. So, but I kept getting the same confirmatory messages from book to book to book. Raw foods and juicing, right? Life change, forgiveness, like detoxifying your body, detoxifying your home, like all these sort of foundational principles.
Exercise, sleep, stress reduction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
Right. And so now things are crazy because there's a million websites. A bunch of people are kind of trying to capitalize on alternative cancer therapies and natural health and wellness. And really what I see on the internet now is just people or companies or organizations are just vomiting out content, right? They're just barfing up as much as they can to get clicks to their website. And none of it's curated. None of it's coming from a person who has a conscientious, not saying none is an exaggeration, but a lot of it is coming from people who don't have any conscientious desire to help others. They just want to get clicks for the website and get ad revenue or sell you some supplements or something. So now it's kind of worse in a way, right? For us, it was kind of hard because information was limited.
Right.
Now there's too much information and everyone's head spinning. And that's why I created the course, which we'll get to in a minute. But anyway, at that point, it was a huge blessing that my mom had these books. Okay, so back to the story. So my mom's supporting me. Everybody else thinks I'm crazy, and there's all this pressure on me to do conventional treatment. I mean, pressure. Like it was intense. And so I reluctantly agreed to go see the oncologist that I was recommended to go see. My wife and I go to the clinic, parking lot's packed. We go in, the waiting room's full. I'm looking around, and it's like, it kind of felt like the first day at a new school because, right, you walk in, are almost like the first day at new school, the first day at lunch, right? And you're kind of walking in like, okay, who are these people? Anybody in here I can relate to? Like, anybody like me in here? And I'm looking around, like I'm in the
Yeah.
cancer club now. Who else is in the club? Any cool kids? And no,
I wish we were
everyone,
at the same hospital and we were in the same waiting room because I would have come right over to you and I would have hugged you and been like,
it,
"Hey, you want to be friends?"
it would have been, we would have been friends, I'm sure, because everybody in my waiting room had gray hair
Yeah.
and I was 26, right? So
Sure.
they were 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I'm 26 with a handlebar mustache and like shaggy hair because I'm a rocker. And I'm just like, God, I don't belong here. Like, this is just weird. And we sit down, we're on the couch, the TV's on, and it's one of the morning shows. And out comes Jack LaLanne. Jack LaLanne, most people who are our age or older know Jack LaLanne, but he at that time he was around 80 years old. He's been a lifelong health and wellness fitness crusader. He had a show about health and fitness in the 1950s, black and white TV, right? And he comes out, he's like 80 and he's like fit and he's like
So
full of
cool.
energy and he's like talking like this and he's, whatever. And he's going off, right? Just going off about health and nutrition and saying like, the reason we're all so sick is because we're eating all this man-made food and processed food and junk food. And if man made it, don't eat it. And, you need to start eating fruits and vegetables and juicing, right? And I'm like, I can't believe this is on right now in the cancer clinic,
Yeah.
And I turn to my wife, I'm like, can you believe this is like right now? Like, and she's like, it's pretty weird.
But no, don't you think that, the universe sends us signs all the time? And at that point in your life, you were probably so receptive because you were in this very open, in many ways, alive place. And
I
so
had
your
giant, I'm like,
radar was up.
my,
Yeah.
my favorite Martian or whatever,
Yeah.
that show,
Yeah.
I had antenna coming out of my head, right?
Yeah.
Like I was completely tuned in.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we go, I mean, that was weird, right? We go back to see the oncologist. He comes out, he just gives me this, boilerplate, he's looked at my file. He's like, look, you got stage 3 colon cancer. It's very aggressive in young adults. You've got to do chemotherapy. You have about a 60% chance of living 5 years with treatment. And I'm like, 60% chance of living 5 years is not encouraging. That's almost 50%, which is like a coin toss, which means it sounds like he doesn't even, I'm really sure if it's going to work. And so, I'm like, well, okay, what about the raw food diet? And he says, no, you can't do that. It'll fight the chemo. Well, okay, what does that mean? Then, but I didn't ask him, and then I said, well, are there any alternative therapies available? And at that moment, his demeanor completely changed. He went from sort of friendly-ish,
Mm-hmm.
to just condescending, and and talking down to me. And he was like, "No, if you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane."
Mm-hmm.
And he starts going on and on and on, and the fear took over. I was like, tunnel vision, fear, stress, anxiety. I don't know what he was saying to me, but it was all just to kind of beat me down into submission. And one thing popped out in the middle of it, which was he was like, look, I'm not saying this because I need your business, which was weird, right? Because I'm like, what does business have to do with it? Like, this is healthcare. And
Well, we also know that doctors, the vast majority, especially of oncologists, have no clue about lifestyle practices. I mean, that's what's so magical, I think, certainly coming up with our Healing Cancer World Summit, which I've interviewed you and you're a part of, and I'm so excited to share that, is the fact that I have integrative oncologists who are talking about lifestyle medicine and how important it is remarkable because oftentimes when you are going to meet oncologists, especially if you're going to places that may not be like a really good cancer hospital, you're not going to find anybody who's open to your ideas and through their own fear and through their own lens of this is all I know. You absolutely will find folks who are super resistant. And I think mostly because they're worried for you.
Yeah, there's multiple reasons. They're not trained, right? They have
Right.
only a small number of arrows in their quiver, which are conventional treatment. They have no training in nutrition or diet and lifestyle medicine. They really do think you have no other option than to do treatment. And this guy did his best to talk me into it, and he did talk me into it. When our meeting ended, I felt like I had been brainwashed, and I got up and just like went to the desk before we left and made the appointment to start chemotherapy
Right.
in a few weeks. Right? I was just like, I just, he won, I lost. I was like, okay, the fear, he used fear to just like manipulate me into saying yes to something that went into the clinic feeling good, excited about my life. Like, okay, let's see what he has to say. Maybe he has some ideas that could be helpful. Like I was very optimistic about things. And then I left just completely shattered. Like I was
Right.
just terrified, and my hope was shattered. My faith was shaken. We walked back to my wife's car and sat in her car and held hands and just cried.
Mm-hmm.
And I choked out a prayer. It was
Mm.
just sad. It was just a very sad moment, very low point in the journey. Now, fortunately, I had a few weeks before they were going to put in the port and start chemo, because I was still recovering from surgery. So even as discouraged and dejected as I went back home and I just, fired up the juicer.
You got
Right?
busy juicing.
Yeah, I'd been juicing for a week up to
Mm.
that point, right? I'd been on a raw food diet for a week. And by the way, I didn't ease my way into it. It was like all the way immediately. Like I just stopped doing what I was doing and started doing something new. So I was eating all raw food. I was juicing 64 ounces of carrot juice every day, and drinking it throughout the day. And so I just kept doing that. I was just doing that stuff. I was praying a lot. I was thinking a lot. I was just really trying to sort out my life and trying to figure out what to do. And, you said something earlier, and I'm glad you brought it up about me being courageous. And people say that to me regularly. And I'll tell you, courage it doesn't feel like courage.
Mm-hmm.
Courage feels like fear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like, right? At no point did I ever feel courageous
Right.
or brave, right? At no point. All I felt was fear.
Yeah.
And I've realized now that fear is the darkness that courage shines through.
Mm.
And so it was in those moments, courage is the soldier who's afraid, but he moves forward anyway, right? And so there's an expression, if you're scared, do it scared.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was doing, right? I was just doing it scared. And, I had this sort of picture in my mind at that time that's just stuck with me. And I always kind of tell this as part of the story, but, it's like there's two paths, right? There's the conventional path, which is the brightly lit, wide, paved road that everyone's going down, and they get on the chemo train, which is the beautiful modern express train, and all their needs are met, and everyone's cheering them on the sidelines, and they're running races for them, and they get on the train, and the chairs are so comfortable, and everything's so beautiful, and all their needs are met, and they're bringing them snacks and little cookies and little treats, right? But as soon as that train starts, the suffering starts. And if I got on that train, I would suffer. And I don't know what would happen at the end of the line. Would they drop me off better, or would they drop me off at the end of the line saying, we've done all we can do, and, we're sorry.
Right. So you chose not to do that, obviously, and I want to make sure we have time to get to some of your tips and talk about your course.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. So basically, around that time, you've got the 2 weeks, and you're juicing, you're eating all this incredible raw food, and I'm sure every single day you're thinking, I think I'm going to stick with my decision to forego chemo and go on my own.
Yeah.
And obviously, you told your doctor this, and I'm sure that it didn't go over that well, but you
Well,
decided, I'm going to
yeah.
do this anyway.
Yeah, so the way it worked out was, again, that the chemo train's on this side, and the other side, the other option I had, the other path was the path into the jungle that I had to hack my way through alone. And even though they were both scary, right? They
Right.
were both scary. I didn't have assurances on for either path, but I just felt deep down, like in my core, that if I go this jungle path, like if I take the path, the road less traveled, um, and trust that God will lead me through this thing, like that's what I've got to do. Like so, I
Hmm.
just like that's the path I've got to take. And I thought if I can make it through this, then maybe I can help some other people make it through,
Right. So what
right?
did you do? What did you do?
So what did I do?
What
What
was
didn't
the
I do,
plan? What was
Kris?
the daily Kris plan?
What didn't I do? So the plan was like massive, massive radical action, right?
Yeah,
Total life change. And we did a lot of the same things. You know what I did, but I know you just want me to talk about it.
that's true.
Yeah. So the first thing was a raw food diet. So I stopped eating meat, dairy. I started eating processed food, junk food. Like I stopped eating anything in a package, in a bottle, in a can, like nothing, right? So I started eating only fruits and vegetables,
Hmm.
and I decided to start juicing based on a bunch of books I'd read, like
Right.
start juicing 64 ounces of carrot juice a day. So that's where I started, was with carrot juice, and then I started adding things to it like beets and celery and ginger root, right, and just like
Hmm.
more stuff to the juice, more vegetables, like more vegetables. And so I'd make my batch of juice first thing in the morning for the day. So I'd do all my juicing first thing, make it for the day. And then usually would juice through breakfast, maybe have a green apple or, grapefruit or something as a snack. And then lunch was a giant salad. So as much anti-cancer vegetables as I could pack into this salad. So it wasn't like, a giant Caesar salad,
Right.
right? It was like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, onions,
Yeah.
mushrooms,
Kitchen sink
pe
salad. Everything.
peppers,
Yeah.
yeah, the rainbow salad,
Hmm.
just like everything I could get in there. And it was big enough to fill me up and satisfy me. And then I would top it with like olive oil, apple cider vinegar, and garlic and cayenne pepper and curry powder. I mean, yeah, like everything in the pantry and the fridge, like jam it in there. Of course, sprouts as well.
Yeah.
So I'd gotten some raw food cookbooks, and I quickly realized that I didn't want to make any of these recipes because they were too complicated with dehydrators and like all this stuff.
I did all
And
that for quite some time, and I agree with you. It was very complicated.
you got into it, and I was like, I ain't got time for this. I'm like, I've got to work. I've got
Yeah.
to, I've got to like really keep this. How can I make this work? Because to me, it's like I knew my own limitations, and I knew if it wasn't simple, I wouldn't be able to sustain it.
Sure.
So it was like the giant salad. I'm going to eat this giant bowl of vegetables every day for lunch and dinner, every single day. And I'm going to juice in the morning and make my juice for the day. I can do that.
Hmm. And
Like
you had a
I
ton of
can do
variety, so you know you're getting everything that you need.
exactly,
Right.
right? And the thing about the raw food recipes is a lot of them, it's only a handful of ingredients. And I'm like, well, my salad's got more variety than that. And so I was like, I'm covering all my bases with this thing.
But Kris, where did you get your protein?
Yeah. Where does a gorilla get their protein, Kris?
I don't know.
So yeah, protein was never an issue. Never had a protein deficiency. Um, and I had tons of energy. I was feeling really good. Now, the first few days when you adopt a hardcore protocol like that, raw foods or even a plant-based diet, typically you can feel pretty lousy because
Totally.
you've got food withdrawal. You're detoxifying and you're withdrawing from sugar and salt and too much fat and protein, like all this junk you've been eating, right? Caffeine, artificial sweeteners, all that junk. So the first few days I didn't feel good, but after, day 3 or 4, somewhere around there, I kind of turned a corner, started to feel really good. And by the time I went to see the oncologist, which was a week later, I was feeling great. So I just stuck with that, right? I stuck with it.
Yeah.
And by the way, after that oncologist appointment, my wife's attitude actually changed because of the way he treated us. And so in the beginning, she thought I was crazy, but then she was like, yeah, I mean, she just saw this, she had this firsthand like reality check about the cancer industry and how this particular doctor anyway, right, just treated us so badly.
Yeah.
It was like, why would I ever go back? So I never went back. I the day came to go get the port put in, and I was like,
I'm not showing up.
not going.
I'm not going.
And I thought that would be the end of it, but then they start calling my house, leaving
Well,
messages.
you
We
skipped a
had an
very important, appointment.
Yeah.
You didn't even call and cancel. Of course they're going to call your
No,
house.
no, I didn't call. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I'm just like, everybody just leave me alone. Let me just go live my life.
So I
But
want to pause you for a second because I think I'm just going to insert a tip here because I think it's so important. When I probably met with 6 different oncologists at many different hospitals around the country prior to choosing my oncologist who specializes in sarcoma at Dana-Farber. And I had one oncologist in particular who reminds me a lot of the oncologist that you met with. And I think what's really important for patients to understand, especially if they're building an integrative approach or a combined approach, that who you pick really, really matters. And though you were given specific treatment options for your disease, like maybe a different oncologist wouldn't have recommended the same thing. I can speak to myself, my own experience, which was, triple organ transplant, doing all of these radical treatments that wouldn't do anything to stop it when we didn't even really know if it was aggressive, to finally meeting my own oncologist who I love, who's a dear friend of mine, who basically said, let's not do anything. I know that's scary and that's not an approach that you hear often, but with your disease, if we start treating you right now with stuff that's kind of experimental, we're going to take away the quality of your life and we don't know if it's going to make anything better. So let's just hope that it stays quiet and that as time goes on, we have other options for you in case one day it does become aggressive. Then you and I can talk about whether it's worth it. Then you and I can talk about whether or not we want to pull that trigger, so to speak. And so I think that that's probably my number one tip. And it's, again, a perfect time to insert it, which is find the best doctor, go doctor shopping, and think about these folks as, co-captains of your treatment plan if you decide to do treatment, which I think many people will. But finding somebody who is top-notch can often determine your outcome.
yeah, I agree 100%. Absolutely. And we had a different um it was so smart of you to do that. Okay, so smart of you to interview all those doctors. For some reason, I don't know what it was in my mind at the time. I just thought they're all going to treat me the same way. And mainly it was probably because my oncologist and my surgeon were both pressuring me to do chemotherapy. They were a united front, right? And being in Memphis, it's not exactly the mecca of nutrition or holistic, I'd have to leave Memphis and whatever.
Or cancer hospitals. I mean, I had to travel around the country. So,
yeah.
But in your defense, I must say that I think the reason why I did choose my path of interviewing all those doctors was because my disease is very rare and frequently unknown. So some of the places that I went to were like, I'm like, you're not good for me. Okay, I'm going to go on. I'm sure you're good for other people doing what you do, but you're not good for me. Bye-bye.
You have what again?
Yeah, you're like, okay, we're good. Let's pack it up.
Well, that is such good advice. And I'm telling you, I repeat that advice because I interact with cancer patients every day and often hear them say, my doctor said I shouldn't be juicing. My doctor doesn't like my doctor doesn't like, and I'm like, you can find another doctor. Maybe you should talk to some other doctors and find one that will support you and work with you and not fight you every time you go in there, right? And tell you that what you're doing is wrong, it won't help you and discourage you. Find someone that will support you like Kris Carr did. Right. And I did too, by the way. So I found a naturopath who connected me with this sort of underground integrative oncologist a few weeks later in Memphis, who's now deceased because he was an old guy and he'd come back out of retirement because he didn't like being retired. And he had spent a lifetime doing conventional cancer treatment and was like, all right, what else is out there? And so he was doing IV vitamin C and he was doing, these other non-toxic but not FDA approved therapies that ultimately cost him his license. But he was an amazing man, just a prince of a guy. And I mean, just a huge blessing in my life, like your doctor was, I'm sure, to you.
And I also have an integrative oncologist and used vitamin C therapy as well. And I think probably back when you were experimenting with that, and I'm sure it was helpful to your current condition, being cancer free, because it is so powerful. And the thing is like, we'll never know, right? People always
Right.
say, why is your cancer stable? I'm like, I don't know, but I feel good and I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it. And that's all I can tell you right now. But
Yep.
back then, I'm sure that it was a lot more controversial to do the vitamin C treatment. It was for me. I couldn't find anybody to do it. I only found a few people that were willing or able to do it. Now, I think so many people are embracing it. So,
Yeah, but it is still hard to find.
yeah,
I mean, it's more widespread, but still hard to find for some people depending on where they live.
true.
Um, but so at that point in the journey, that all happened really in January 2004. All of that stuff, because I was diagnosed in December, so it was like January and December, this whirlwind. But then as the pieces started falling in place, and this is just kind of the beautiful thing when you step out into the unknown, right? Like things come into your life
Mm.
to help you, right?
Yeah,
But if you stay in fear, right, and you never step out, then you never allow these amazing people and things to come, miracles to happen in your life. And so as soon as I just said, okay, like I'm just going to step out in fear, in faith, but also in the midst
right.
of my fear, right? I'm going to step out into this. I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to change everything. I'm doing everything I can do, but I'm also trusting God to lead me in the process. And I was desperate for those little reminders, those little signposts along the way, and I kept getting them, right? I would just, every few weeks, every month, I would just some little thing, some piece of information, some person would come into my life and encourage me and remind me that I was on the right path. And so people are, part of the process was just every day, just overdosing on nutrition. That
Right.
was like my mindset, just overdose on nutrition. Every single bite, I'm building a new body,
Yeah.
right? I'm building a new body, like head to toe, like with what I put in my mouth. And I'm going to create an environment where cancer cannot thrive. And
Okay, so tell me of a few other things that you were doing. Tell me about your exercise.
mhm.
Tell me about your sleep. And then I'm going to save my other question for when you're done with those two.
So the raw food and juicing was physically, right? Because we've got physical, mental, spiritual health, right?
Right.
And even emotional health. But the physical part was tons of plant food. And by the way, after about 90 days, I started eating some cooked food as well. So I went from 100% raw down to about 70 to 80% raw. And the naturopath I was working with at the time recommended that I start eating a few servings of animal protein per week, which I started doing because I was like, I don't care. I don't care about being vegan. I just want to live.
Hmm.
So he was like, why don't you have some wild caught salmon or some lamb? So I started doing that, but knowing what I know now, I don't think it was good advice. Um, but anyway, but the more eating a little more cooked food helped me put on some weight because I'd gotten a little too skinny.
Right.
But I maintained that hardcore 80% raw, 20% cooked diet for years. It was just, this is it. If I have to eat this way the rest of my life, this is what I'm going to do. And then I had these scans along the way just to track my progress and blood work every month. So just get those details out of the way for anybody who's wondering. So the other things I did, exercise, right? So I just, I started moving my body. I started running. I started going to the gym again, like just wanted to move. Now, I didn't know how powerful exercise was until like I do now. I mean, there's a study, one of my favorite studies to cite is they did a study on breast cancer patients, and they found that breast cancer patients who eat the minimum of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day and walk a minimum of 30 minutes a day had a 50% reduced risk of recurrence after 9 years.
It's amazing.
Right? That's insane. Like you can cut your risk in half, right? And these are breast cancer patients that did conventional treatment, The ones that ate 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day on average and walked 30 minutes a day, that's like nothing. That's that's like minimal effort. Had a 50% reduced risk of recurrence.
There's also some studies that show that patients who are undergoing treatment who exercise, the treatments can be more effective. And not only can they be more effective, they can exercise helps to reduce the symptoms of those treatments. So whether you're doing treatment or not, exercise, I think you and I both would agree, is
Yeah.
essential because it boosts your immune system and it's one of the most powerful things that you could do to help your body heal.
I was rebounding, so I bought a rebounder, mini trampoline. I was doing that every day, 3 times a day for like 10 to 20 minutes. Yeah, did you have a rebounder too?
It's right out there on my porch. I
Okay,
did
all
it
right,
right
all right.
before the
Yeah,
interview.
yeah. I know that. I don't know why I asked you, did you? I know you did. So I was doing that. I just started running. I started going to the gym a few times a week. Like I was just the thing that the way I thought about exercise, even though I didn't have any studies that proved that it improved survival yet, what I instinctively thought was, I'm sending signals of life to my body. I'm telling it to get stronger, right? Because I want to live,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I'm doing this to like tell my body to get stronger. And that's all I had. Right? Didn't have a study. It was just like instincts, like survival instincts took over. Tons of fruits and vegetables, removing toxins. So we cleaned out our house, right? I threw away all the toxic cleaning products, all the toxic body care products, like all the conventional commercial stuff. Started buying like hippie products or whatever, right? Just like
Good
hippie
for your
toothpaste, Toms and
good for your
whatever.
immune system.
Yeah. So
Not always good for your odors, but good for your
yeah,
immune system.
right. So, so again, it was just a process of like, okay, like everything sort of became a suspect to me of like what is contributing to my disease. So it was kind of like I laid my life on the table and I'm like systematically like sorting through it to figure out, okay, what is useful that I should keep and what do I need to eliminate? And so the diet was a huge change. Exercising, incorporating that was huge. I started, again, most of it, I got some information from books as I was learning, and I'm sure I learned this from a book, but I was thinking about, I need to be in tune with the cycle of the sun, right? If I want to get as close to nature as possible, like we've gotten so far away from living in tune with nature in a modern world. How do I get back to living in tune with nature? And well, that I would probably need to go to bed like after sundown, like pretty close to after sundown. And so I set an earlier bedtime, right? Started going to bed earlier. And so those were just, again, with removing toxic stuff from my house, removing it from my diet, exercising, trying to get lots of sleep in total darkness, just like really making all these little shifts in my life. Like you said, people ask you like, what did you do that helped? I don't know. I just did everything.
Yeah.
Right? I did everything I could find and afford. And working with a naturopath, of course, he had me taking all kinds of herbs and supplements and stuff. And I'm just like, whatever, man. Like, I'll just throw it, just like, give it to me. Like,
And
I'll
was
just
he
put it all
taking
in
your
there.
blood, doing blood work on you to find out what you truly needed so you weren't wasting money just taking anything? Because I think that that's what happens to patients a lot. They just read about the latest supplement, the latest superfood, and they throw all this money at all of these products, and most of the time they don't take them. I can speak for myself until I started to work with an integrative oncologist who actually did my blood work and said, okay, this is what you're deficient in, and we're not going to buy over-the-counter supplements. We're going to use like pharmaceutical grade supplements.
Yeah. Nutraceuticals.
Yes. So you did that based on your blood work?
So the naturopath I worked with had, we did hair tests, stool tests, saliva test, urine analysis. He didn't do blood work, but the oncologist I worked with did blood work. But he did have his own set of diagnostic type tests to try to help identify deficiencies,
Right.
Heavy metal toxicity, parasites, like just stuff like that, right? That we could target.
That's great.
So that's why I don't say like, oh, you need to take this, that, this, and that, because this is what I took, because it was individualized, like the stuff that any naturopath is
Yeah.
going to give you
As it
if they're
needs to
doing a
be.
good job. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you one more question, and then I want to talk about your course.
Yeah.
You're painting the picture for me, and one of the things that I love about hearing your story, which I've heard many times now, and it's always wonderful to hear. It's like the first time.
Oh,
Is you really are a wellness detective, and that's exactly how I approached my own path. Was I just put everything on the table and said, okay, what's not working in my life? What I'm eating, what I'm drinking, what I'm thinking, how I'm resting and renewing. Those are like my pillars of prevention and recovery. And you did the exact same thing. And for everybody out there listening, whether you have cancer or not, I think we all get to a point in our lives where we need to lay it on the table, put on our detective hats, and see what's not working, and systematically go through these areas of our lives, not in a way that causes us endless stress and puts more on our like self-care to-do list. We're not projects that need to be checked off. So you have to be really mindful about that. But as you put your life on the table and see the areas where you could feel better, where you could be happier, where you could have better immunity, vitality, energy, relationships that are working for you, relationships that are not working for you, and get really honest about what comes up. That's the first step in turning your life around. And you and I did it overnight because we were scared. Not everybody has to do it overnight, but I think we all at some point in our lives have to do it. And so I want to commend you for being that detective and showing other people that they can do that too, because oftentimes we outsource our well-being to fast food chains, to doctors, to marketers. There's my television, so I might outsource my
Yep.
well-being to TV commercials and say, this
Supplement
is what you
companies.
need. Yeah, yeah. And we never realize that, wait a minute, the power is with me. And then I can make any choice that I want to make, but the power starts with me first. And so first, I wanted to commend you, and now I want to get to the question, because I bet you a lot of people are wondering along the way, you're making all these changes, and you're going, I'm going to sleep more, I'm going to eat this raw food diet, I'm going to exercise. How did you deal with the stress? How did you deal with not knowing whether you were making the right choice, not let alone the stress in our lives? Because we all have stress in our lives. I'm sorry, we're not living in caves, meditating all day long, and not seeing the news, which is pretty freaking stressful. We all have stress. So there's the underlying regular stress that's the current that runs through many of our lives. But then you have this whole other layer of stress going on because of your diagnosis. So for the people out there listening who may be in the midst of like a serious stress bath, they're struggling with stress so much, and they really like what you're saying, but they can't even imagine approaching it because they're so overwhelmed and shut down, and they don't even know how they could get past that point to then start juicing and all these other wonderful things. What do you say to them?
I'm glad you brought it up. I love talking about stress. So for me, it was do or die, right? I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so I made a decision. I came to several conclusions, right? One of them was the way I'm living is killing me. And if that's true, then I need to change my whole life. And changing my whole life means changing my whole life, right? And leaving no stone unturned. And as I was like, again, absorbing information and trying to learn, like, what can I do? What can I change? What is making me sick? What's contributing to my disease? What could keep me from getting well? Playing the detective, as you said, like this thing came up. I started reading, and it was a repeated message, like the raw food diet, was the stress connection to cancer and to disease. And I'm like, okay, like, what's this about? And I'd never used the word like, oh, I'm so stressed out. Like, I never talked about having stress. I always felt like I was resilient, like I was, being sort of type A, only child, always wanting to get my way kind of personality, which actually served me right in this process. Because when my support evaporated, I was kind of like, oh, I've been alone my whole life anyway. It's fine, right? Like
I'm good.
I'm
I got
okay.
this.
Yeah. So which was good, but it also kind of worked against me in the beginning because I thought I don't have stress. Like I don't even know what stress is. I don't know what stressed feels like. I was not a worrier, right? But as I investigated my life, I realized I had a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Once I learned what stress was, and I realized like I have all this. It's hard for me to itemize it, but I'm pushing myself. I'm going 90 miles an hour, trying to build a business, trying to be successful, trying to prove myself to others and to the world and people that don't even care about me, but I'm trying to like show them that I'm something. I am carrying all this unforgiveness,
Hmm.
bitterness, guilt, um, resentments toward people. And as I started to sort of dig and uncover, I realized, wow, all of these negative emotions, including envy and jealousy, prejudices, right, being judgmental and critical of other people, like I was a swirling mess of negativity and judgmentalism. I was just a mess and emotional, even though like I'm a Christian, I'm trying to be a good guy and make, and like, just make good choices and be good, right? I
Right.
still had not gotten a hold of my thoughts and my emotions like I should have, or like I realized I needed to. And so as soon as I had these, sort of epiphanies about that, then I started actively like catching myself when I would think negatively, and I would stop, right? I would say, like, I'm being negative, I'm being critical, I'm being judgmental. Like I'm going to not be, right? I'm just going to choose to not. So they call it mindfulness now, but like back then, I don't know that word was a thing, but
It was
maybe it
just
was.
choose to not. That was
Yeah, it's
what you
just like,
call
this is not like,
it.
just stop thinking that way. So I started catching my thoughts, right? And so that was part one, is this practice of like not thinking negatively. And number two is forgiveness. I mean, I just made a decision. I'm going to forgive every person who's ever hurt me in my life, like one by one, by name. I'm just going to close my eyes, get in a prayerful state, and just give them to God and just say, God, I forgive them.
Right.
Like I'm letting it go. They're all yours, right? They're all
Mm.
yours. And I'm asking you to bless them. I don't really want you to, but I'm asking you to anyway. And I promise you, when you pray that way, when you say, God, I forgive them, they hurt me, but I'm choosing to forgive, and I'm asking you to bless them anyway. Like something happens in your heart. And the way I describe it is you just open up your heart and he can come in and heal it. And so I went through that practice. And the embarrassing thing of it all is that nobody ever really hurt me that bad. My parents stayed together. I wasn't abused as a kid. Like I didn't have any major traumatic like stuff, but I had let all this little insignificant
Yeah.
crap just build up and shape me into a negative, critical, insecure, judgmental, unhappy person. And so I just started peeling back the layers, right?
Hmm.
And unraveling, and like, you go in the closet with all the junk and like you clean it out. And so forgiveness was a huge part of that for me, huge. Now, dealing with the fear was just a daily practice of trust. Every time I'd feel afraid, I would catch myself in the fear, because the fear creeps in, right? With cancer, it's like you can get busy living your life and you forget about it, right? And you're kind of in that ignorant bliss kind of state where you just like doing your thing and it's fine. And then you remember you have cancer and you're like, like the wave of fear and the cold sweat and your stomach gets knotted up and you're like, oh my gosh, like, oh yeah, I might be dying right now. I don't know from day to day, am I getting better or worse? Like you can't get a blood test every day. And so I realized, okay, I can't live in fear. I know now that all negative emotion, all anxiety, all fear, unforgiveness, bitterness, all those things actually suppress your immune system.
Right.
They physically suppress immune function. It's not like a weird woo-woo idea. Stress hormones triggered by negativity and fear and anxiety, when they're triggered, they suppress immune function. So anyway, that's a pro tip.
That is a
Uh,
good pro tip.
yeah, but I just knew it wasn't good, right?
Yeah.
Back then, I was like, I can't live in fear. I can't do that. So anytime fear would creep in, I would just catch it like I would catch a negative emotion, say, okay, God, I'm giving you my fear, just laying it down, and I trust you, right?
Mm.
You're in control. I trust you. I'm not going to be afraid. And I'm just gonna keep going, right? Just keep doing what I'm doing. And thank you. And then I would turn it into gratitude, right? So here's my problem. I'm trusting you with it. And now I'm going to thank you for all the good things in my life. And gratitude is so powerful, right? Because as soon as you shift your focus from the things that you don't have, right? That you
Yes.
wish you had, that you think you have, that you think you deserve. We got a big problem in our culture right now. Everybody thinks they deserve something they don't,
Yeah.
right? Think you need, think you deserve, whatever. When you shift your focus from what you don't have to what you do have, which is a house, clothing, food,
Hmm.
people who love you,
Yeah.
right? most of your body in great health. Your hands, your fingers, your toes, your eyes, right? Like I can get out of bed, I can walk. And I mean it's so powerful just to think, you know what? Sometimes people come to me and when they're complaining, and even if they don't mean to be, but they're kind of complaining and they're down and they're struggling with negativity. And I say, listen, this is for cancer patients. It's typically a cancer patient conversation. I say, listen, I know things aren't the way you want them to be right now, but I promise you, there's someone dying in the hospital right now that would give anything to trade places with you.
Hmm.
And when we remind ourselves how blessed we are, right, to be living where we live, to be in peace and safety and security, to not be in a war zone, to not be starving. I mean, how long is the list is like, I can just go on and on. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden I start thinking about all these wonderful things that I have to be thankful for. And my mood is just, right? I'm full of joy and gratitude. And I'm like, man, I am so blessed. It's ridiculous, right? Even with cancer, right?
Hmm.
I have so much to be. And so this great part of the story that I don't want to leave out, I almost left it out, is my wife and I talked about starting a family. And I was like, I don't know how much time I have. I want to be a dad, you know,
Hmm.
and like, what do you think about starting a family? And she said yes. And to me, that was the most courageous thing I knew of because she didn't know if I was going to be around to help her raise our child. And she said yes, like she would be willing to start a family. And so she got pregnant like just a few months after I was diagnosed.
Wow.
We found out she was pregnant. And so now I had this new thing to be grateful and thankful for, like this, this little baby on the way. And a year after I was in the hospital with cancer surgery, I was back in the hospital holding this baby girl. And so I had something else to live for, right? It was just like, and this is huge. Having something or some things to live for is so important. I mean, this is one of the first things I talk about. And I know we want to talk about the course. And one of the first things I talk about in the first module of the course is like, if you have cancer, like, do you want to live? Do you want to live? And why? What do you have to live for? Because now's the time to figure that out.
Yeah.
If you don't want to live, it's okay. Like maybe you're satisfied with your life, right? Maybe you're at peace. Maybe you're ready to die, or maybe you're just really discouraged and depressed and you want to check out. It's okay. Like it's your life. But if you do want to live, now is the time to get very clear about why you want to live and what you have to live for and those things that you feel like you need to do with your life, like unfinished business, because there's something that happens that, spirit, mind, body connection is a powerful thing. And when your spirit and your mind are aligned in purpose, then it directs your body. Your body has to come with your spirit and your mind. And so that's what I was doing. Like I was sort of aligning myself. Everything I was doing was promote health and life. Like
It's beautiful.
all the choices I made were to promote health and to
Hmm.
promote life. So that's how I dealt with stress. It was just a daily practice,
Yeah.
right? Of here's my fear, give my fear to God, and then turn my focus from what I want to what I have. And just thank you, thank you, thank you for everything I have. And they said call it counting your blessings, right? And we all have so many blessings that we can count. And when you do, it makes you happy. Gratitude's the secret to happiness.
It really is. It really is. And that was so magical. Thank you for sharing that. I relate to everything that you said. And for me, as somebody, I've struggled with anxiety and depression on and off my whole life. And I think through the process of practicing mindfulness and gratitude, it wasn't like I was doing that to get rid of anxiety and depression. I was doing that because I wanted to participate in my well being. And I knew everything that you were talking about, which is how all these stress hormones can actually make our diseases worse. And, but it was this very magical and wonderful side effect of feeling less anxiety and less depression because of the gratitude practice. And for me, also, meditation has been a big part of my own personal practice and journey. And, people always ask me similar questions. And I think because I've been living with cancer for 15 years, it's a very interesting experience because I've never gone into remission. Oftentimes people tell my story or they say, congratulations, you're cured from cancer. And I'm like, nope. No, they're like, wait, it's still there? And then there's this look of fear and terror that comes over them.
Right.
Right? I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, I'm one of those people who actually lives with cancer. I'm a cancer thriver. And when I decided to stop chasing the cure, because when I took the inventory and realized how good I feel and how beautiful my life was and how I found the love of my life and I'm doing what I feel very called to do in the world, and ultimately I'm very happy, I thought this pursuit of making it go away is the one thing that's stressing me out.
So powerful. I
I'm
mean,
just gonna be okay with being me, cancer and all. And if someday that changes, then okay, what options do I have? And let me think about them.
that's, oh, I love that about you so much. I mean, because you are like this beacon, right? Like this beacon of hope to so many people, right? That like you can live with cancer. It doesn't have to define you. Like you can thrive with it. And, you know, I talk about this too. I try to help people understand. Your story is such a great one to show people. It's like, listen, there's a lot of different ways this can go.
Right.
And a lot of these ways it can go are all good. So scenario number one, your cancer goes away. It's all gone, right? Great. Everybody knows that's good. Scenario number two is it stops growing.
Right.
It's still there, but it's not taking over your body. That's great. That's cause for celebration. That's good. You can live with it indefinitely. If it doesn't ever spread, guess what? It can't kill you. And so like just trying to get people in the back in that mindset of like, hey, it's okay. Like we don't know. It might linger for a long time. Some people respond right away. Some people it
Right.
lingers. Like you're 15 years and just like thriving and it's fine. You're doing awesome. And even people like, listen, it's got to slow down first before it can stop growing.
Right.
It's a process, right? So first you got to slow it down, then it's got to stop, and then if it shrinks, right, it's got to slow down before it stops, before it shrinks. And those are all good scenarios, right? So,
So we have to help people understand
yeah,
cancer in a new way. And because I think that it's changing, the conversation's changing, the outcomes are changing. There are many new treatment options, targeted therapies, immunotherapies. There are many more people talking about an integrative approach. What I love is that you put together this course, and why don't we move on to that for a minute and then we'll wrap up, because you've put together something really wonderful and important, and it's free, and it walks people through the process, much of which we've talked about through these different modules where you focus on key aspects of your recovery and what helped you,
yeah,
and what we also know helps many cancer patients. And so for people who are interested in exploring how they can participate, it seems like your program is wonderful. And even if you want to do treatment, like, this story, Kris, and I haven't shared it with my readers, and I'm not going to right now, but basically in the last couple of years, somebody very important to me in my life, one of my family members, was diagnosed with an aggressive pancreatic cancer. And it turned our whole family upside down for the last 2 years. And it was literally like I just worked. I did my day job, which is hi, you, and
yeah.
doing what I do.
Hi,
And
people.
hi, people. And then a good portion of my time was really focused on my family member. And I feel like what I learned through my very strange disease was very helpful for my family, and certainly what they learned as being a part of my journey. And this family member didn't really have an option. And you said like how fast it's moving. Because it was moving so quickly, chemo, surgery, and radiation, they're what saved his life. And right now he's working on rebuilding his health, doing the things that you're talking about in your program. In fact, I emailed my followers about your program the other day, and I got a text from my dad. That looks very interesting, and I'm like, watch it, because he has so much to repair. But I have to say, we bless that chemo, we bless that radiation, we bless that surgery, because I don't know if he would be here to then be able to try to recover, like what that does. And we know that these things make it very difficult to repair, but not impossible. And so he's on that journey now. And so the reason why I bring that up is because you and I have very unique stories. Our stories are not the norm. And your program, though it talks about all of these alternative and integrative approaches, it's perfect for people who are going through treatment and really want that. Or for folks who are like, you know what, I'm not so sure I want that. And my disease maybe is slow growing, or maybe it's a stage 0 breast cancer, and it seems as though maybe that's not the way for me to go right now. So tell me about your program.
You did such a great job. I mean, I can't think of anything else to say. No, but you're.
Well, I'm trying to paint that it's really helpful for anybody on their journey, whatever they decide to do.
That's absolutely right. And I just want to be very clear about what it's not. This is not a don't do chemo, don't do surgery, don't do radiation, do this instead program. That's not what it is. And I created it just to teach either a patient or a caregiver or somebody that's just really serious about prevention. Like every single thing that I did to get well, which are also the same things that everyone I know has done to get well, and including you, right? Just like to thrive, right? To thrive. And whether they were doing conventional, now, by the way, these are all the principles that are really shared by the people who thrive despite the odds, right? And it's, people often say alternative therapies, but I don't look at it as alternative therapy. It's really just focused on nutrition, non-toxic stuff like diet, lifestyle, stress, sleep, exercise, like a lot of the things we've touched on, science-based, evidence-based information that any person can apply to their life. That's what's so important. So it doesn't matter if you don't have cancer, this will help.
Yeah.
If you have cancer, this will help.
Right.
Like if you're doing chemo, this will help. So it's not a either or. It's not a us versus them. I have been on the blog historically critical of the cancer industry because there's a lot of reasons to be critical of them, because a lot of patients are rushed into treatment that are over treatment or they don't understand or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, like, I just want to help everybody.
Right.
And so that's what Square One's for. And it's a 10 video programs, like 10 1-hour modules. And once a year, I put the whole thing online for free.
Wonderful.
So this month, we're in August here, and in just August 14th, actually, through the 24th, like all 10 modules are free online. Like, just, you don't have to buy anything. You just tune in, watch the course, like take as many notes as you can, like, just like absorb it. If you have people in your life that
watch
have
it
cancer,
together.
Watch it together. Like, duct tape them to the chair if you need
I don't want to watch this cancer program. You're duct taped in.
Yeah, tape them up, like stick them in front. You do like, Clockwork Orange, where they like pry the guy's eyes open and he can't blink. So do all that with people that you care about, because they'll thank you after. You release one module a day. So folks, it's 10 days and you release one module a day, so you can watch the hour-long module, and then you watch the next one, the next one, and the next one. You get this whole amazing course, and it's basically... Each one's up for 24 hours.
Okay.
So, you have a full 24 hours to squeeze it in. And again, it's normally a paid program. People, it's existed since 2016, and people buy this program every day. We have this the best part of the program is this amazing support community of people.
Is it like a Facebook group?
Mm-hmm. It's a private Facebook group, and but just people loving on each other, encouraging each other, sharing information. Like, it's just a wonderful part of the Square One group that I honestly didn't even want to create it, because I thought, I don't know if I want to manage a Facebook group, and it's just been the best thing I ever put together. Just a couple clicks to create it, and it's just the best part of thing. So,
Well, I
so
want to
anyway,
thank
yeah,
you for creating it. And
thanks,
everybody
thanks.
who's listening, if you want to check it out, there's a link below. There's a link at kriscarr.com. And this is your time to do it. This is the time that Kris offers it for free, where you can watch it and, as he said, take all the notes that you want and start to look at your life, become the wellness detective in these different areas of your own well-being, like we've discussed in this interview, and like you'll learn in Kris's program if you're interested in it. So,
Yeah. And
um,
I want to say one more thing
yeah,
about it is that I organize it in a way that's very comprehensive, but it's also very simple, right? Because there's a lot of information out there that really is overly complicated, and that, you know, how I said earlier, people are always messaging me about like, where do I start? A lot of the times they also were saying things like, I'm so confused,
sure,
right? Like I read this website, I read this thing and that thing, and like I'm so confused. And so the one thing that will not happen to you if you watch Square One is you won't be confused. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. Like, it's meant to give you an action plan on how to change your life and every aspect of your life systematically without overwhelming you. Now, there's a lot to do for some people, like for you and I, we had a lot to do.
yeah.
But if you have a systematic plan, it makes it doable. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say, you're a very special person. I'm not.
Hi, you are
Okay.
too. You
I'm not
are.
special. I'm not. I'm just a regular dude.
Now, I know
Okay.
you now. You're not a regular
100%
dude.
regular, averagest, normalist dude
You're very
ever.
funny. You have a good sense of humor, so
Well,
there's
maybe
that.
maybe I'll take that compliment, but I'm saying that to say that, like, this is not for special people,
Right.
like with special powers or abilities or gifts, right? It's for anybody.
Yeah.
Like, literally, if I can do this, anybody can do it.
Mm.
It just takes one thing, which is making a decision that, like, okay, I'm going to change my life, right? I'm going to change my life. And when you make that decision, then you just step your way through it.
Well, that's a perfect place to end because I think that this interview will be life changing for a lot of people. So thank you so
I
much,
hope so.
Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
Yeah.
Big love.
Big love. Let's do it again. Let's wear similar
Again.
clothes again. Let's hang
Yes. SS,
out.
Kris and Kris.
Taking off.
Ahoy.
Sailing into well being. Okay,
That's
well,
right.
so again, you've got all the information below, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, and we wish you lots of love, health, and happiness.
Yes, we do.
Bye bye.
Bye.